Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Kormrok.
Yes, and this boss is one of the earlier bosses you'll be seeing within this instance, and he's pretty easy. He doesn't have too many abilities, but the abilities that he does have are very significant, and if you mess them up in one way or another, you can wipe very, very quickly.
For this encounter you do want to bring 2 tanks, probably 1 healer per group, and a mixture of DPS, it doesn't really matter.
So how this encounter works is that the boss really has only one phase, and during this one phase he has 4 main abilities. He has something called Pound. This ability comes in roughly every 60 seconds or so and just deals large damage to everyone in the raid, but also causes players to do splash damage around themselves while they're receiving damage from this ability, so it's very, very important that everyone is spread out 4 yards just so you're not taking excessive damage. Using a healing cooldown per pound is probably a good idea.
The boss will also spawn shadow waves from the purple pool in the corner of the room. These globs will pretty much just travel across the room. If you're hit by them, you'll take damage, which is bad. He'll also have something called explosive runes, and he'll just spawn multiple red runes on the ground around the middle of the room. These runes will explode after 15 seconds, dealing a shit ton of damage to the entire raid. However, if you run over one of the runes before they explode, only that player will take the damage and the rune will be destroyed. So the idea is that when these runes spawn, run over the runes one by one just to explode them off. It doesn't do too much damage to your character, but you may want to use some sort of defensive cooldown to reduce the damage that you're taking.
And the last ability that he'll throw at you is something called Grasping Hands. When he casts this, the entire raid will be placed in a Kormrok hand. Now initially when these hands spawn, they actually deal physical damage to anyone within 4 yards. This prevents your entire raid from being stacked up on one single location, which is probably what you saw in our PTR video. Things have changed since then. So the way that you need to deal with them now is that when the hands are about to come in, you want your raid still to be roughly stacked, but not so much that everyone's going to immediately die. The way that we do it is that we just spread the entire raid out within inside a healing rain or an efflorescence, and that should be more than fine, providing people aren't ultra stacked. Now while you're inside these hands, you are rooted, you cannot move at all, and you'll also be taking light physical damage. So the idea is, these hands spawn, make sure you're spread, and just AoE them down immediately. So there are all the abilities you have to deal with. However, all of these abilities, aside from the Pound ability, become empowered over the course of the fight, giving them extra effects for the next 3 times that they're used. The way that this works is that the boss, right at the start of the encounter, and then 90 seconds after that point onwards, will jump to the closest pool, absorb all the goo from it, and that will empower a particular ability depending on what pool he's soaked. And do note, he can't soak the same pool over and over again. You have to do it in a rotation.
So at the start of the encounter, we get him to jump into the red pool, and this will empower his explosive runes ability. This will make it so the explosive runes respawn every single time you soak them. However, they will not respawn if the runes are near each other, or if there is a single rune left. Now when you soak a rune when it is empowered, it will respawn directly in front of where you were facing when you initially soaked the rune. So this is kind of like herding them all up, because you want to herd all of these runes to a single location by pushing them all together, then there'll be one left, and then you soak that, and then all the runes are dealt with. So when they spawn, they'll spawn in the circle around the middle of the room, start pushing them towards the middle, and then eventually there'll be one left, soak that, and you're all done.
Now after you've dealt with the boss and this new empowered ability for 90 seconds, you will then want him to move into the green pool, so make sure he's closest to that pool. Now note that even though he has now soaked the green pool, you will still have stacks left from the empowered red pool, so you will still have to deal with empowered explosive runes. Now how the green pool empowerment works is that it makes it so all of the grasping hands, rather than them just rooting you in place, they'll now drag you towards the closest pool in the room. If you do actually get dragged into the pool, you're going to die almost immediately. The amount of damage these pools tick for is absolutely insane. So you don't really deal with this any differently to how you would with just the normal hands. You just need to make sure that the entire raid is stacked more towards one pool than another, because you don't want your raid to be split in 2, and just, you know, that's when you look at wiping.
Now after you deal with that for around 90 seconds, the boss will then go into the purple pool, regardless of where he is in the room, because he's already been in the red and he's already been in the green. So he's going to jump to the purple pool and make his wave ability empowered. And do note that he will still have stacks from his green pool empowerment, so while you are dealing with his empowered waves, you're also going to be dealing with the empowered hands. Now the empowered waves, the way they work is instead of the waves just coming from the purple pool, they come from all 3 pools in the entire room. It gets messy as shit. If you are in the middle, it is very, very hard to dance around them, and really the best way of dealing with it when these waves do come in is try and like work your way through the waves into a certain area, so then you can dodge the other waves coming towards you. Because if you, as I said, if you're in the middle, you're most likely going to get caught out and die. So make your way towards one pool by dodging all those waves, and that will give you like a lot of room and a lot of time to dodge the next two sets of waves that are coming towards you.
Now from this point onwards, the boss would then go back to the red one. However, we always killed the boss before he even got to this point. There is actually an enrage on the boss, and it's possible that the enrage would actually start as soon as you go back to the first pool. So the idea is probably you want to kill him while he's at the purple pool. But apart from that, that's how all the empowerments work.
However, tanks, you're not getting away with it. Every time the boss jumps into a pool, he actually gains a new thing that you need to deal with. When he jumps into the red pool, he'll gain an ability called Explosive Burst. This will root the tank in place for 10 seconds, and then you will explode, dealing a huge amount of damage to anyone within 40 yards. So it's kind of like Imperator Margok in Heimel. Make sure either you can like blink away as it's being cast on you or something, or just get the raid to run away from you. In the green pool, you'll get Foul Crush. This is pretty much your own personal hand that's really, really meaty and does a shit ton more damage. However, it doesn't drag you anywhere. It's just a static hand. You want the other tank to taunt off you immediately when this goes on because it is so much damage on you, and you need all of the raid team to switch to your hand as soon as possible because, yeah, you're taking a shit ton of damage. And in the purple pool, you'll get an ability called Swat. This will deal a huge amount of magic damage to the tank and knock him way across the room. And when this does come in, you probably want to face your back towards a wall, or just generally make it so you're not going to land into a pool. Because if you land into a pool, you're most likely going to die, so try and aim yourself.
One thing to note with all these abilities that Alex has just listed that the tanks need to deal with, you'll also receive a debuff called Fell Touch, which increases the amount of damage you take from all magical abilities by 50%, and this ability does stack. Just make sure you taunt on one and you'll be absolutely fine. So that's everything that's going on with this fight. Ultimately, if you've got enough AoE to deal with the green hands, they're a non-issue. The purple pool is a non-issue as well because you can just dodge the waves. Really, the most difficult thing that requires the most coordination is probably the red empowerments.
Yeah.
But if you have the right classes, you can pretty much do it all day. It's just important that you get it done quickly. Otherwise, it can potentially override with other effects. Like on one of our pools, we had the red rune still going on while we was inside the crushing hands.
Yeah, it was
And
awful.
we had one of them explode while we was in the hands, which is pretty dangerous. But I think that pretty much covers it. If this guide did help you out, guys, then please do drop us down a like. It helps us out a lot. And we shall see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.